how are you? Welcome back to me in my living room. It is 3 in the afternoon and I just got back from running some errands, which was my first time going out of the house today. And I just really want to work on something creative and have something to focus on that feels productive and fulfilling. I was going to work on giving myself some new tattoos for the summer. If you're new to the channel, I do tattoos as well. And I did just work on a new flash sheet with a few pieces that I think that I do really want to give myself. But I've just been having a lot of fun with the kind of more like sewing, clothing making kind of projects and videos that I've been working on lately. So I've been brainstorming ideas for projects to do with you today. I do actually have a lot of fun, exciting ideas for things that I want to make in the next couple of months, things that I'm really looking forward to making. But as I was thinking about kind of like planning, shopping for fabric for these things, I was just feeling like I needed to focus on going through some of the fabric that I already have. I'm sure you can tell from the videos you've seen on this channel, I live in a very small New York City apartment. Especially with Trevor and I both having a lot of hobbies, things can just kind of accumulate very quickly, and so I try to be very intentional with what I'm holding on to. I have a couple different places that I'm holding on to fabric at the moment. A lot of our arts and crafts supplies we just keep out on display. Our living room is kind of like half living space, half work studio. We have our sewing machine sitting out. A lot of my drawing supplies are just on our coffee table at all times. I have my like collage collection and embroidery things. But as far as supplies that I don't like keeping out on display just for everyone to look at all the time, we have this big dresser. We've been using it as storage for all of our art supplies. The 2 biggest drawers at the top are entirely stuffed with fabric. And they're just both overflowing at this point. Like it's difficult even just to open the drawers. They're like resisting against how full they are. Most of the fabric in here isn't even very big. Like a lot of it is truly just scraps left over from other projects. But I think for today what I want to do is get everything out of these drawers and just kind of take a look at what I have, do a little bit of brainstorming. So I think we're just gonna pull everything out and see what we have. Yeah, looking at all of this spread out on the floor, I'm definitely feeling a little bit overwhelmed. This has all been just shoved in these drawers for a reason. I haven't really known what to do with them. So I'm pretty much just gonna look through my Pinterest board right now and kind of see if anything immediately strikes me as something I want to start with. Right now I have 2 or 3 main ideas floating in my head that I'm pretty sure I want to work on. One is I think that I want to make some pillows for the couch. All the tiny scrap pieces that I have, I can take those and use them as stuffing for the pillows. And I think that that would be a nice way to maximize like getting rid of the tiny scraps that I don't know what to do with. I'm thinking that I also want to do some kind of patchwork design on like a pair of pants or something. I have this like really scrapped together looking messy junk jeans that I made recently, and I sewed them together in like an intentionally very messy looking way. Those would be pants that would be nice to like do some patchwork quilty looking designs over. And that could be a good way to use up some of the scrap fabric as well, maybe especially some of the denim scrap fabric that I have. Last project that I feel like I definitely want to do is another kind of like patchwork quilty looking thing. I want to make another one of those like ruffle skirts, or maybe like a dress with a ruffle skirt, but I think I want to try to make them in that like patchwork look by just sewing a bunch of the smaller pieces together into like a long strip that I can use into like tiers of the skirt. So I feel like that would look good, and that would be another way to like use up pieces of fabric that are too small to be used on their own. So junk jeans, pillows, and patchwork ruffly skirt thing. And I feel like that'll help me make a good amount of progress getting through these
these things that I need to get through. It is mostly scraps. Like, there's not a lot in here that I can use on its own, but that's okay. I think these projects are gonna be effective in helping me use up some of these scraps. So I'm just gonna go through all of these and do the ironing that I need to do. Probably cut a few seams open to try to get everything like flat and fabric use ready. I have like these tops, for example, that I bought from the thrift store. Sometimes I'll buy things from the thrift store if they're actually cheap and I just like the fabric of them. Is like one of my favorite ways to get cheap fabric for projects. Like, I think I got this shirt for like $3 and Trevor got a lot of use out of them for quilting. But this is like just what's left over from those projects. And I think they'll work pretty well. I just need to cut the seams open so that I can get everything to lay flat and be ready to use. We just got this wool pressing mat and it's been really nice to have. I know I mentioned this before, but our apartment is super teeny tiny. So we don't really have room for an ironing board, but we do need to do a lot of ironing for all of our sewing projects. In the past, like what we've been doing is pretty much just like very thoroughly cleaning off our kitchen countertops and using those to do all of the ironing, but it's incredibly inconvenient. Like, usually there's like dishes that need done and things that need cleaned up, so it can like put a bit of an obstacle in between like wanting to sew something, needing to iron it first, and then like also having to clean up before you can even start. So having this has like really been nice so far. And it doesn't take up very much space, but it's like plenty big for most of the stuff that I'm usually doing. Also, if I'm ironing wrong, don't tell me. I don't think I ever like have had a reason to do a lot of ironing in my life until I started sewing. Like, we had one at my house as a kid, but I feel like my generation is one of steamers. Trevor was the one who wanted to get the iron when he started quilting, was like, I can't do this without this. I love this pressing mat. This has been kind of like the first of like new things we've been buying to like try to up our sewing game a little bit. The next thing on my list after this is getting a serger, which I've never done before. If you are someone who uses a serger regularly, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I spent a lot of this morning and yesterday working on cutting squares, which was a very repetitive, time-consuming process, just a lot of ironing, measuring, cutting. I ended up going for these 5 by 5 inch squares, and originally I had been thinking of doing it like in a bit more of an asymmetrical look, but I ended up deciding to just go with the 5 by 5 inch squares for all of these because it's going to give me a bit more flexibility since I don't really know exactly what design I'm doing with yet. So that way I can move any of the pieces to any place on the design and it'll be fine. At the moment I'm planning to do
depending on how much fabric I have, either a top or a dress. I ended up cutting this pattern for the top, which I've used to make a shirt before, and I thought it would be nice to use for this as well. So I cut one of the fabrics that I have into this design, and then I'm going to be using this to attach the quilted patchwork pieces together. So that's the starting point for this. Today I need to go ahead and sew these together, as well as start doing some pattern planning for all of these squares that I've been cutting. So I'm just gonna lay these out, start to arrange them, also do some measuring to figure out like what size I want to make each of the panels that's gonna be attached to the top. I'm gonna get back into sewing, planning, measuring. Thanks. See ya. So I'm in the process of putting together the patchwork quilt looking ruffle top that I've been working on, and I wanted to take a second just to talk about ruffle math, which is something I've been having to do a lot of lately. There's been a lot of this in this project. I ended up cutting all of the fabric into these 5-inch squares, and so I was just doing some math to try to figure out how many of each of these that I was going to need. So when I'm planning fabric for this kind of like A-line gathered fabric look, there's the measurement at the very top, which is like a waistline, or in this case, the neckline of the shirt. And for each piece of fabric that you're attaching to that main measurement, you're cutting a piece of fabric that's going to be longer than what it's being attached to. So either like 1.5 times the size, or 2 times, or 3 times. I have this handy little picture saved on my Pinterest that I think is a really nice reference for like what those different measurements look like when they're gathered. A lot of the skirts and dresses that I've been making lately, I've been doing 2 times increases, but for this one I didn't want it to be quite as big, so I went with 1.5 roughly. The neckline of the pattern that I cut for this was around 15 inches, so I decided to do 1 yard for the first strip of fabric that I'm attaching. So that's about a 2 times increase. But then after that, I did 1.5 yards for the second tier, and then 2.5 yards for the last tier. Because technically it would be 2.25, but it's just easier to do a 1/2 yard. So I ended up planning all of these out, and because these are 5-inch squares, it's roughly 7 of them to make a yard, so 35 inches. So that's how I kind of got an idea of how many of each of these that I was going to need, so that I could cut out the right amount of squares. And so I just cut 10 yards worth of 5-inch squares, so that way I'm using 5 yards for the front and 5 yards for the back of the shirt, if that makes sense. So that's just the math that I've been doing, and just wanted to share. That's what I was planning and figuring out as I was laying everything out on my cutting mat. So.
was fun. You see the video, I fall. The fall in the video is like very mild. He's excited to climb this week. And then we were saying we can also stay. And then he also said he You said you want to go to Virginia?
So I got a nice comment on the last video that I posted of somebody asking why I was doubling up on all of the pattern pieces that I was using for something. So cutting 2 identical versions of every piece of the pattern. I'm doing something similar for the shirt that I'm working on, so I'm going to take a second just to explain. So this is the neckline for the shirt that I'm making right now, and it has a raw edge here at the top. And so I need to do something to like conceal the hem and make it look cleaner. And I don't know if other people struggle with this as much as I do, but for me, a lot of the time when I have like a curved edge that I'm trying to hem, like when I sew over, it just ends up getting kind of bunched up and looking awkward. So what I've been doing instead lately is just taking 2 pieces that are the same and then sewing them together along the edge. And then once I've sewed along the whole thing, just flipping the whole piece inside out. And so the seam like at the edge is like completely concealed between the 2 pieces of fabric. Only downside is that it uses more fabric. So I feel like I have a couple of dresses that I'm about to start working on that I'm going to need to do this with. And I think I'm gonna probably start getting like a cheaper fabric that just like kind of matches the main one. So that way when I flip it inside out, like the piece that's like the fabric that's facing me is like, I don't know, not as expensive. But yeah, just wanted to explain that since somebody asked. So the patchwork ruffly baby doll top that I've been working on is done. I finished up sewing that last night, and so I'll do a show and tell of that later when I finish everything and show you everything I've been working on at the end. Today I've been working on the denim patches for that little project that I've been making, and the pillows. A lot of projects kind of coming to the end of being done today. Just wanting to call it a day on the sewing bit of it so that I can start editing and share this with you this week, but I'll update progress tomorrow. Okay. show and tell, closing thoughts, that part of the video. I feel like I gave myself a lot to do with this video. In theory, like really the point was just to be able to get rid of some of my scrap fabric, clear out the drawers a little bit so that I have room for more stuff, because I do have some upcoming projects that I'm really excited about, wanted to buy more fabric for. And I think that was a good goal. I didn't maybe necessarily consider how much time all of these projects were going to take all piled up on top of each other. There are a couple things that I didn't quite get to finish or clean up as much as I wanted to, but for the sake of like making this something that I can share, I'm just calling it for now. I have the 3 main projects that I had talked about at the beginning of this video. I did end up getting to make all 3 of those. Also a small little bonus project, and I'm just gonna walk you through and show you the things that I was working on. This is the top that I ended up making. Originally when I had started thinking about making this, I was kind of going back and forth between like a skirt or a dress, but with the amount of fabric that I had, I thought making a shirt would be easier, more realistic. I feel like in the future it would be fun to make something like this that is longer. I kind of really wanted to just stick with these 3 fabrics. And so if I would have incorporated more of my scrap fabric, I definitely could have had more and made something bigger. But this is just what I ended up deciding to go with. I feel like these 3 colors are really cute together. I feel like I would recommend this as a beginner project, especially if you're wanting to use up scrap fabric in the same kind of way. Even though it was a lot of work to do, I feel like it was all pretty like approachable, straightforward. I like working with ruffles because you get to cut a lot of straight lines, which means you get to do straight hems when you're sewing, so it's a lot easier to work with. Overall, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I feel like I have a couple things I would do differently. The main thing is just that I feel like this really needs a backing fabric. There are a lot of seams on the inside of the shirt, and it's just messy, and honestly, probably over time, the fabrics might end up fraying. That's really the only major change that I would make to this. Other than that, I feel like it's really cute. It is a little bit silly and extra, so I'm not sure how much I'm gonna wear it like out and about, but we'll see. My second big project that took a lot of time was all of these little patches that I made for my first time trying to construct some jeans. And because they already looked so messy and kind of thrown together, I felt like it would add to the look a lot to just kind of add some patches of some weird fabric that I had left over. And making the patches for this was really super fun. I feel like I want to do some more stuff like this in the future, and then maybe just like hold on to them to throw on to things or to gift people if they want like some patches to put on their bags or, you know, anything like that. I did a lot of hand sewing for this project. To attach them to the jeans, I used just like a normal sewing thread and a tiny needle. But then for the cool like details, kind of designs on the patches, I used my embroidery thread to make those. And I think it looks pretty cool. But that's how those ones turned out. Really nothing I would do differently. I feel like these came out pretty much exactly how I wanted them to. The jeans themselves I feel like could use some improvement, but that's a whole other topic. We'll see how much I end up wanting to wear these out just because of like how big and ridiculous the shape is. But I do like them a lot more now that it has patches on it, so we'll see. This was definitely the easiest project out of the bunch, but it was very effective in just getting rid of fabric scraps that I had no plans with. So I just turned them into stuffing for these little throw pillows that I have on my couch now. I've been wanting more throw pillows for the couch for a while, so this ended up working out pretty well. I feel like I'm not quite done with these. For one, I had really envisioned wanting to do some embroidery on the throw pillows. I had a couple throw pillows that I had saved like on some home decor website that I really liked, but ended up kind of being like, I could make those. And it's this like beaded embroidery thing. And I do really want to come back and do that with these. I just didn't really have time for the sake of this video. But maybe I'll show you in some other time if I get around to it. But that's what I got done for the projects that I set out to do for this video. I also did end up adding a bit of an extra thing that I thought would be cool to do, which was using the scrap fabric that I had left over from my 2 most recent dress projects and making mini versions of those dresses for my American Girl doll. These are pretty easy to do. Like I feel like I finished most of these in like an hour. For the doll clothes, like obviously they're not getting worn out, and so I don't feel like I have to be as like particular. I don't have to think about the construction as much basically. It's more just about like being able to put it together into something that looks passable when it's sitting on the stand in my bedroom. And that's just cute. I feel like that's super fun. So yeah, a lot of projects that I got done this week. I feel like I've been sewing nonstop for like 5 days. I definitely cleared up so much room in my sewing drawers for new projects, which I'm excited about. After making these projects, I went in and also did some organizing, some folding, separating things off into bags depending on the projects that I'm going to use them for. So much easier to open, not getting stuck when I'm pulling it out at least. But that's great. I made lots of progress. And as a reward for clearing out so much space, I did go ahead and buy some new fabric for the projects I have coming up. Super excited and can't wait to show you those when I finish them. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the whole thing. Please do leave a like, leave a comment, and let me know that you're around. It means the world to me. If you want to connect with me on any of my creative social stuff, I always have my Tumblr, Pinterest, that kind of stuff linked down below. Thank you so much, as always, for caring about the things that I make. And I'll see you soon.